not only does Hassan Piker not talk about Jews as a group, when he does, he often goes out of his way. I would suggest sometimes very defensively and performatively. And maybe that's just what you need to do, or you feel like you need to do, if you're a person of Turkish descent and Muslim who's criticizing Israel, as opposed to, say, a Jewish person who has a lot more leeway. But not only does he go out of his way to constantly say, this is anti-Semitic, he actually accuses, I think very unfairly and libelously, but he does, people like Tucker Carlson and Nick Fuentes and Candace Owens of not having any genuine concern for the Palestinian people, but themselves being motivated solely by anti-Semitism, and that's the only reason why they're critical of Israel. I mean, if anybody models the ADL's approach, it's Hassan Piker, but notice he has a particular disdain for Hassan Piker, because I do think that criticism and opposition of Israel from the left is regarded as far more threatening to them. They trust that the American right will serve Israel. They have their Ted Cruz's and Mike Johnson's and Donald Trump's. So anyway, let's continue. I mean, I think there's absolutely nothing remotely anti-Semitic about Tucker Carlson or Hassan Piker. Not even arguable. The only thing they have in common is that they're both critics of Israel and U.S. financing of it. But let's take a look at the rest.
Yeah, so you might not know Hassan Piker, but if your kids are watching video games, you better believe they do. It's on Twitch and on Steam. He's everywhere, let alone on YouTube and Insta.
What is Steam? I mean, he is big on Twitch. And also, Hassan Piker doesn't really play video games, I don't think, at least not anymore. He just does political commentary, but anyway.
So anyways, long story short, we definitely are working a lot to try to get the platforms to kind of enforce their own terms of service so that we can pull down the most offensive hate speech and get them to do it. But I need people on the right to take down Tucker Carlson, so I'm trying to help Ted Cruz. I need people on the right to take down Nick Fuentes, so I'm trying to help people like Ben, and same thing for them.
I do just want to say, I'm talking a sermon about nuance being children.
I guess I was a rabbi saying in his sermon, he was talking about how we're all children of God and all human beings, but he wanted to make clear he doesn't think Nick Fuentes is one. In any event, all of that was fine in the sense that it was just Jonathan Greenblatt spewing venom at people who criticize Israel and American citizens who dare to question why we're financing Israel. And you can vehemently disagree, as I do, especially with this view that that's anti-Semitism. That was all fine. It was at the end when he said, we're working intensively to make sure the platforms silence these people. And you notice he was particularly critical of X, and he scored on X for being responsible for the fact that Nick Fuentes can be heard. This is what the ADL does. They pretend that they're opposed to racism or bigoted, but what they're really about is using the massive power of the pro-Israel lobby, the Jewish lobby, if we're being honest, to censor American citizens off of the internet, out of corporations, bullying corporations to destroy the livelihood of people who criticize Israel. And that last part gave the lie away that this is what the ADL is really all about. Now, this is not a new thing. This is not to start happening since October 7th. The ADL, working with the Israeli government, has been monomaniacally focused on getting laws passed designed to punish social media companies, big tech, if they permit anti-Semitic language. Of course, that includes, as the ADL sees it, any real criticism of Israel or Zionism. Here is a Times of Israel article from 2020. The ADL tells Congress to curb online hate speech if social media giants won't. Appearing before House Committee, the House Committee, Jonathan Greenblatt, says Silicon Valley firms should have tackled anti-Semitism proliferating on their platforms long ago. So it's not just that he's trying to force big tech companies to ban people like Tucker Carlson, Hassan Piker, Nick Fuentes, whoever criticizes Israel. He wants Congress, and as you're going to see, he has a lot of influence on Congress. He wants Congress to ban social media platforms or require them to ban and silence and censor and remove people who are critical of Israel. Here's the article that goes on, quote, the head of the Anti-Defamation League told House lawmakers Wednesday to craft legislation. Listen to this. The head of the ADL, it's not like he advocated or suggested or requested. He told House lawmakers Wednesday to craft legislation that would force social media giants to take neo-Nazis and others spewing anti-Semitic hatred off the platforms if the companies won't do so on their own. You just heard. Doesn't just include people who say, oh, Hitler was right, let's bring back Auschwitz. No, it's a way broader definition of that. It includes people in his mind like Tucker Carlson and Hassan Piker, who are anti-Semitic only if you think criticizing Israel and opposing Israel is anti-Semitic. And he wants Congress to ban them, despite the fact that we actually have a constitution that prohibits that. He goes on, in testimony before the House Committee on Homeland Security, Jonathan Greenblatt said the rise of anti-Semitic incidents in the United States was due in part to bigoted voices being amplified on Facebook, Twitter, and other websites. It's long overdue for the social media companies to step up and shut down the neo-Nazis on their platform, he told Congress. Companies like Twitter and Facebook need to apply the same energy to protecting vulnerable users that they apply to protecting their corporate profits. I mean, this is stuff that is unbelievably pernicious. But the ADL succeeded in getting lawmakers to carry out their orders. In fact, it was a bipartisan cast that is now introducing something like the Stop Hate Act that would fine social media companies $5 million a day if they permitted what the ADL considers, or what some committee considers to be hateful speech, which would obviously mean anti-Semitism and criticism of Israel. Watch this scene here. It's so symbolic. You have two members of Congress, Josh Gottmeyer, a Democrat of New Jersey, a fanatical Israel supporter, and Don Bacon, who is a Republican from Nebraska, And they both come forward to argue for this law, forcing social media companies to remove the speech that the ADL wants. And you see here, Jonathan Greenblatt is standing watching them like some sort of minder or mafia boss. And you see his posture. He's in charge. And he's looking at the members of Congress he owns as they do his bidding. And at one point, they even pay homage to him and express gratitude toward him. Listen, just watch this spectacle. This is how Washington works. This is how censorship is exercised in the United States through the Congress.
This bipartisan legislation requires social media companies to release detailed public reports of violations of their terms of service and to outline how they're addressing these violations, which includes the use of their platforms by terrorist groups. Every day, companies don't report this information. It will result in a $5 million fine. Social media companies can no longer hide the crimes that take place on their platforms, especially when they pose a threat to America's national security. And we're very proud this bill has the backing of the Anti-Defamation League.
I'm so proud. I'm so proud that our censorship bill has the backing of the ADL. It doesn't just have the backing of the ADL. They created the bill, and they gave you their marching orders for you to sponsor it. Now you are, while the head of the ADL stands there looking at you with his arms folded in front of him and his chest extended, knowing that he dictates to the American Congress what the limits of the speech rights are of American citizens.
I saw it.
This is Don Bacon, the Republican from Nebraska.
Anti-Semitism for the first time when I was 15 years old. I had good parents who taught me it was wrong, but loved the lasting impression of seeing my first incident as a teenager. And here on my social media, you see it every day. People that are responding back with what I consider clearly anti-Semitic kind of messages on social media. I even saw an article today, it was about me, but talking about we oppose guys who are pro-Zionists, right?
Now, I don't know, I find that maybe I'm being naive or kind of amazing. They should at least pretend they're doing it on their own without their ADL boss standing next to them, given that they're introducing bills that would limit the speech rights of American citizens when it comes to to Israel and to Jews. But the ADL has been at this for multiple years now. This is their primary project. Their top priority is censor speech rights of American citizens. Here is, I reported on an ADL report in 2024, and you can see at the bottom of the ADL tweet, promoted as report anti-Semitic content. So they're telling people, report anti-Semitic content on social media platforms and expect nothing to happen. Research from the ADL Center for Technology and Society shows that 5 major platforms are still failing to enforce their policies. So they're whining that big tech platforms aren't censoring enough content that they consider to be anti-Semitic. Do you understand that they don't want free speech in the United States? They don't believe in it. They don't want criticism of Israel to be freely expressed. They don't want you to be able to talk about the pro-Israel lobby. They consider all of that anti-Semitic. And here is part of the report that I highlighted, quote, social media platforms are still falling far too short when it comes to moderating anti-Semitic and anti-Israel content, said Jonathan Greenblatt, ADL